Hey guys, it's Mackenzie from Girl Loves Glam here. And as you can see, I can't see you really with this. I am going to take these off. I'm just going to put them here for now because my glasses have a lot to do with this story. And typically on my website and my YouTube channel, you can find like fun beauty content and stuff, but today I am switching things up to share a very personal story of mine that has completely affected pretty much every aspect of my life. And it's something that I have felt so strongly that I need to share because I want to save as many people's vision as I possibly can. This is the story of the time that I got an eye-eating parasite and lost my vision and in my left eye. And it was one of the most painful things I have ever had to experience, both physically and emotionally. It was so awful. And I have given birth to 2 children. So I just want to share my story because I want to save someone else. And I know that I have been given this platform for a reason, and I know over the years, I've been doing this for 11 years now, I know over the years there have been several messages that I have felt really strongly that I needed to share, and I know that it has helped people, but this is definitely one that I have felt really called to share my story. So the parasite that I contracted is called Acanthamoeba Keratitis, I think. Keratitis, I think. Most people will just call it Acanthamoeba. So, Acanthamoeba. And it, straight off the internet, I will just read you this. It says, Acanthamoeba is a rare disease in which they invade the cornea of your eye, and it affects 1.2 to 3 million people each year. Acanthamoeba are found in soil, water, and can cause infections of the skin, eyes, and central nervous system. So, this can affect people who wear contacts way more often than people who do not wear contacts. So if you don't wear contacts, don't let this freak you out. If you do wear contacts, this is your warning, and listen closely because it is not something to be just take lightly. It's not at all. September 5th of 2018 was the last day that I wore contacts. That day, at the end of the day, I started feeling like my eye was irritated. And throughout the day, thought, oh, well, maybe my contacts are just a little old. I probably just need to switch my contacts. But I'll just wear my contact throughout the day, and then I'll just throw it away and put in a new pair tomorrow. So at the end of the day, I took my contacts out and looked at my eye in the mirror and saw that it was really red, and you could tell it was very irritated. And so I actually went on my Instagram stories, and I was wearing my glasses and said, oh, looks like I got like a little eye infection or something. You're gonna be seeing me in my glasses for the next week or so. And I even made a joke about it saying, hope this doesn't turn into the great eye debacle of 2015 or something, because I got an eye infection in both of my eyes several years ago. Made a joke about it. Well, within like the next 2 days, my eye became so sensitive to light that any light, like at that time I was waking up early every morning. I would do some yoga. I would write down a gratitude list and make some goals for the day, and felt like I was in a really good emotional place and was able to start my morning in such a great way. And then my eyes started to get so sensitive that even just going out and turning on the lights first thing in the morning, you know how your eyes can be a little more sensitive to light after you've been sleeping. It was, I mean, my lights weren't even that bright. They're just my house lights. But it was like it would cause my eye to water. And so, like, what is going on? So then thankfully, we didn't live that far from my daughter's school, and I would take her to school, and I would have to wear, we joked and called them my Willy Wonka glasses, because they were these big glasses, and I could put them on top of my other glasses, and I could layer these two glasses, because my eye just could not handle the sun. And even wearing the glasses, my eye would still just water. So I made an appointment with an optometrist, and this is a new area that we live in. So I just looked up someone that had decent reviews online and went to him, and he looked at my eye and just said, well, it just looks like you got a little infection of some sort. Like, I'll get you a steroid and it should be cleared up, in a few days, up to a week maybe. So he put me on some steroids, and I would put them in, and just it progressively was getting worse. So I went in 3 more times in the next 2 weeks, and he gave me a higher prescription for a higher steroid, and it would still get worse. And I mean, we're talking streaming tears. And all the while I am driving to these appointments, I can barely see while I'm driving because my eye is like this, and it is just streaming tears while I'm trying to drive. And I was just in so much pain. And each time I would go to the optometrist, he was looking at it and he would say, this is just the weirdest, like the strangest pattern. Your eye just has the strangest pattern. He just kept saying that over and over again. And here I am thinking, like, okay, you're a doctor, like, you know what's best. I'm gonna trust you. But it just, in my heart, I knew that I wasn't getting what I needed from him because it just continued to get worse. So I go to church every week, and I had stopped going to church because the lights in the chapel were just so bright that my eye just couldn't handle it. It was really hard for me to have to step back from that. And on September 30th, bear in mind, the last day I had worn contacts was September 5th. So this is almost an entire month that I'm going through this. On September 30th, my daughter sang in church. And so I came, and I had to look down the entire time because anytime I would try to look up at her, my eyes would just stream with tears because of the lights. And it was while I was there that I just knew that I needed more help. And not to get like overly religious, because this is not like a religious video at all, but for me, I knew that in our religion, we believe in the priesthood on earth, and I knew that I needed a priesthood blessing. And so I asked for a priesthood blessing, and we went outside. There was no like empty rooms at our church, and I got a priesthood blessing, and I immediately knew that I needed to go somewhere else for help. And I needed to send a picture to my mom. Of all things, like, send a picture to your mom of your eye. We left church early because my eye was in so much pain, we went over to Walmart, and I sent my husband in there to buy what I called bus driver sunglasses, like the old lady sunglasses that you put on over your regular glasses that then have like the side panels on them. Anyway, I sent him in there to get those, and I would have to wear those all the time, like for sure anytime I was attempting to drive. It's crazy that I was driving at this point, but I had to. I was a mom, and I had responsibilities, and I needed to continue to do this. And honestly, I know that God was looking over me and my family during that time, because I was driving like this, like I could barely see. And anyway, so I got those glasses, and I sent a picture to my mom of my eye, and she was at church. She was in another state, but she was at church, and one of our good family friends was my old family doctor, and she showed it to him and said, look at Mackenzie's eye, like this has been 4 weeks of this pain. And he said, she has got to get to an ophthalmologist. It's the first time I'd ever heard of an ophthalmologist. I don't know, like I knew that there were specialists out there that would do, LASIK surgery and stuff, but I guess it had just never crossed my mind that you would go to someone else if you had something wrong with your eye beyond just like cataracts or you need LASIK. The thought never crossed my mind. So the next morning was Monday, and I called an ophthalmologist in my city, and I was able to get in that very next day. And he looked at my eye and was troubled, like really troubled. And I get so emotional even thinking about it, but I went 4 weeks in so much pain with an optometrist that could not get his head around being so arrogant about thinking that he knew everything and that he could just throw all of these steroids at my eye to make it better. And then I come to this ophthalmologist, and he looked at my eye, and he got so concerned and immediately cared about me. And he said, you know what? It's a toss-up for me between a parasite or herpes. And if it is a parasite, we've got to start treating it immediately. And he said, but this is where it gets me so emotional. He said, I have a friend. Sorry, I'm so emotional about this, but no one should have to go through this. But he said, I have a friend. He lives 30 minutes away from here. He is another ophthalmologist. And while I would hate to lose your business, I know that if you have Acanthamoeba parasite, you will be in the best hands possible with this doctor. He said, for whatever reason, he has this weird fascination with this totally bizarre parasite, and he has this really cool microscope that he'll be able to see and know exactly if that's what you have or not. He said, I am going to call him myself, and I will make you that appointment. And so he did. He pulled out his phone, he called this doctor, and he got me an appointment for the very next morning. And I, again, drove myself 30 minutes away, and we used this microscope, and he looked at it, and he confirmed that yes, I did have Acanthamoeba in my eye. And from that day, he prescribed me 5 eye drops that I would have to take every hour. I'd have to put them in my eye every hour for 24 hours. So I would have an alarm go off on my phone every hour I slept, and they had to be refrigerated. So I slept on the couch and would wake up every hour, go to the fridge, put these eye drops in my eye, and sleep for another 45 minutes until it would do it all over again. And these eye drops feel like you're putting hot sauce in your eye. They are made, I didn't realize this until I needed a refill of one of them. They are compound prescriptions, so they can't be filled just at any pharmacy. I had to travel quite a bit to get these prescriptions, and it wasn't until I had called, because I did have to travel like 30 minutes either direction to pick up these prescriptions. I called to check on them, and she said, "Oh, are you calling about this mouthwash?" And I said, "No, they're eye drops." And she goes, oh my word, they are eye drops. So then I did some Googling and discovered that the main ingredient in 2 of these are like an antiseptic that is commonly found in mouthwashes, and it's actually what surgeons wash their hands with before going into surgery. Obviously, this is a much lower dose that I'm putting in my eye, but it explains why it feels like you're putting hot sauce in your eye. So he had me on 5 drops for 24 hours. And then after the first 24 hours, then it was every hour that I was awake. And then I could sleep for the full, 8 hours a night. So 2 weeks later, I would have to go in to the eye doctor, or to my new ophthalmologist. Thankfully, by this point, I was having, my parents actually had moved here, and I was able to get some help, and I had friends that were driving me to pharmacies 30 minutes away. I had family coming to help, and we moved in the middle of all of this. It was like a really chaotic time, but I was going in to the eye doctor twice a week, and I went in, and at this point I had lost all of my peripheral vision. I had no peripheral vision at all. I could see, it was very cloudy looking forward, and I could see this direction just fine, but most of the amoeba were over here. And but that was when I even had my eye open. Like, basically this whole time I'm like this. I couldn't open my eye. So 2 weeks go by of me doing all of these eye drops, and anywhere I would go I'd have to take a little lunchbox with ice in it with my eye drops. And I went into the doctor, and he said, unfortunately, he said, I do feel like a lot of the amoeba have died, but there are still some in there, and the eye drops can't get to them because of just the amount of crap that's like on top of it now. We have a buildup of medicine, and now we have a buildup of dead amoeba that are sitting there. And he said, this is truly like the last resort I would ever want to do to someone, but sorry, emotions again, because this was hard. We are going to have to perform a corneal scrape. Do yourself a favor and don't ever Google what a corneal scrape is, okay, guys? It's horrible. So, you lay there and you're not asleep. They put some numbing drops in your eye, and they pry your eye open, and with a knife, like a razor blade, they scrape off the top layer of your eye. It's as awful. It like looked like a little squeegee, but it's a razor blade. It's as awful as it sounds. While it was happening, yes, it hurt, but as soon as my eye shut, it was like fire in my eye. And I am just so grateful that I had a little prompting to ask my mom to drive me that day, because at that point my eye wasn't being as sensitive to the light. And so I had been driving myself, and I thought, I'm just gonna have my mom drive me today. And I'm so grateful, because after that I went down the stairs into a public bathroom. Thankfully it's just a 1-seater bathroom, and I laid on the bathroom floor in the fetal position, sobbing from pain because it was horrible. And my mom wasn't there to pick me up yet. And she got there and helped me, and I sat in the car, and I put a blanket over my face, and I just sat there in the fetal position and cried. But it was literally, by crying, I was literally putting salt in the wound. And if anyone, I've had a few people, since sharing this story, a few people have reached out to me who have had to go through this too. And anytime I hear that someone has had to have that done, tears just come, because no one should have to go through that. Anyway, sorry. So, he put me on some high pain meds, and I was still obviously on the medication for the amoeba, so that we could get those amoeba that were below the surface. And the painkillers made me so sick. I do not do well with opioids. I will never understand opioid addiction, because I got so sick. So it was at that point that my husband, he's the best. He really is the best. And he was really supportive, but at the same time, like I said, we had moved. There was just a lot going on. He saw how much pain I was in, and he really got on board at this point. So he had made me a medicine chart that I was able to track, like when I was supposed to be taking the pills and doing all of my eye drops and everything like that. And I had been doing that, but I would have to write a new one every day. And so I was able to print it out every day, and it was like such a small thing, but like huge to me. And he had to take a lot of time off work to like take care of our kids while I was recovering. And it was obviously like one of the hardest, most painful things I've had to do, but it also was one of those times when I realized like how many incredible people I was surrounded by. I had family and friends that helped. I had a friend from California that had pizza delivered to us, and my brother brought Papa Murphy's pizzas for us to eat another day. And anyway, it really, like, obviously super sucked, but like it was one of those moments that I realized like just how blessed I was to have these people in my life. A week later, I went to the doctor again, and it was the first good news that I had received this whole time. And he let me know that the corneal scrape was working, and that he could see that the amoeba were starting to disappear. So then I went in November 5th, and that was when I got the news that I had no more active amoeba in my eye. And it was like such a joyous day. It was so good. And I mean, it was kind of a double-edged sword a little bit, because the amoeba there were no active amoeba. He was able to see that, to confirm the first ophthalmologist's suspicions, he was able to confirm that I actually did have the herpes virus as well. And so I was able to slowly wean off of those amoeba medications. He just wanted to slowly do it, just because my eyes had become so accustomed to it at this point, and just really make sure that all of that was out of there. But I still needed to continue treatment for the herpes virus, because the herpes virus, I mean, it's literally like a cold sore in your eye. it does go hand in hand with the Acanthamoeba parasite. Not everyone who gets Acanthamoeba will get the herpes virus, but it is semi-common. Anyway, but the herpes virus is what causes, not totally what causes the light sensitivity, but you get a lot of light sensitivity with the herpes virus. And so anyway, so we just really needed to stay on top of that. So I continued to take my acyclovir, which is the pills, and then a steroid drop. And then I went in for another appointment, and he had me kind of slowly start weaning off of those two, and did that for 2 weeks. And on November 19th, I woke up, and the day before I had woken up and saw that like the bridge of my nose was a little bit swollen, and I thought like maybe I was getting a zit or something. But then on the 19th, I woke up and my nose was super swollen and all around my left eye. And I was like, oh, this cannot be good, you know? At this point, I was really hoping that I would have like a total clean bill of health by Christmas, was like my hope. So I called and I said, you know, my actual eyeball feels okay. It's just this like the eye, it's like this, my eyelid is just super swollen. Like, hey, we need to have you come in just to double check. And what had happened was, because I was on a steroid for so long, you know, we're talking very first week of September through the very end of November, and I mean I was pumping it in my eye, you know, putting them in several times a day, but because my body had grown so accustomed to it, then it was reacting poorly to being taken off it too quickly, and I didn't feel like it was that fast, and so we kind of had to take 2 steps back, and he told me that I would be putting a steroid in my eye until March. And it just was like a knife to the heart, just because I was so excited. You would think that I like would never want to wear contacts again at this point, but I just wanted to have the option, like, and I just wanted to be normal. I just wanted to feel normal. So then I did that. I continued to wear contacts, or not contacts. I continued to wear glasses, put my steroids in every day, and I actually did get permission to wear contacts one day. It was like a week before my appointment in March, and I was going snorkeling in Mexico, and I have like a little bit of anxiety anyway. I shouldn't say a little bit. I have anxiety anyway, but this like was a full on like PTSD moment. I went to put my contacts in on the cruise ship, and my hands were shaking so bad as I like went to put my contacts in, and I just couldn't do it, and I just cried, and I had to lay there for a minute and just have a moment. I was just really freaked out because, for one, it's the first time I was putting contacts in since this all happened, but 2, I was putting them in to then go swim in foreign waters, and that really scared me. And it was fine. I like didn't contract another parasite at this point. It was fine. It just was really hard. So March 11th, I went and had my appointment, and my vision is back 100%. My prescription hasn't changed a single bit. I have no idea how that happened, but it is a miracle. It is seriously a miracle. And all the amoeba is gone. I will have the herpes virus in my eye forever, And that is something that I have to put a steroid drop in my eye every day, and I have to take my acyclovir pill every day. But I can do that. I owe everything to my doctor, that he had that knowledge, and to the second doctor, who was humble enough to send me to him, and that he was able to save my vision. So I do have scarring, and this is why I have to be very active about treating the herpes virus. He said, I would just have you treat as your eye gets irritated, but because my scarring, or the amoeba was over here, and I had lost all the peripheral vision, the scarring literally goes right up to where my line of sight is. And so if I had like too bad of a flare-up with the herpes virus, like that could cause the scarring to come over and impair my vision. And so he just wants me to be very active about continuing those treatments, and so that doesn't happen. So yeah, that's basically my story. So I never did tell you how I got this. When I first went in and they were asking, like, have you been swimming lately? Have you been hot tubbing lately? No, I hadn't. So Acanthamoeba is contracted, like I said, from soil or water. And so swimming in your contacts, hot tubbing in your contacts, showering in your contacts, it can come from any of that. I don't shower in my contacts, and I hadn't been swimming or hot tubbing. It happens pretty quickly. And so, they're like, in the last week, and I hadn't, or in the last week, before all of this started happening, and I hadn't. And so, what my ophthalmologist believes is that it came from me rinsing out my contact case in water. Why aren't they teaching us that when we get contacts? I didn't, I would rinse it out in water, like hot water usually, and then put my contact solution in, and then put my contacts in. And that's not how you're supposed to do it. That I had no idea, but that's how they think that I got it, was from the tap water that came out of my sink in Utah. Like, it's not like I live in some third world country. Like, it is clean water that I drink, and it had an eye-eating parasite in it. Anyway, so this is why this video is so important to me, that I get this message out there. Do not rinse your contact case in water, ever. Absolutely never do it. Rinse it out with the contact solution, and if you need to wash it, put it in your dishwasher and wash it with your utensil thing, but do not rinse it in water. Don't ever shower in your contacts, and try to avoid swimming or hot tubbing in them as well. These are the ways to avoid it. So now, the question I get asked a lot is, can you wear contacts now? So my doctor put it this way. He said, before you had this parasite, you probably considered yourself a contact wearer who sometimes wore glasses. And now you need to consider yourself a glasses wearer who sometimes wears contacts. And that's exactly what I've done. I wear glasses almost every day. Really, like, the only times that I don't is when I'm doing videos. I just because of the glare. And so then I'll wear contacts on those days, or there are just some days that, or some activities and stuff that are best without glasses. But he highly recommended wearing daily contacts. I can't remember what percentage he had told me, but it was a huge percent. Like, he said you are like 90% less likely to get this parasite if you wear daily contacts, because they're just not being in contact with water unless you are showering or swimming. But so now I have daily contacts, and then I actually do still have like a few from before, but those ones I do not wear them for very long, and I will put them in like the tall contact cases that have like the, what is it, like hydrogen or something in it that does like a whole chemical clean to them. I will do those ones, but you just have to be so dang careful. Just don't ever take your vision for granted. It's just completely changed my life. It has completely changed my life. There were just so many things that I missed out on over the course of these like 9 months that I was going through this. And there's so many things that I wish that I could go back and do differently. But I also think like there's a reason why it happened, and it was to share it, and so that it doesn't happen to as many people. And because I have been sharing this on Instagram, I've had probably 5 people reach out to me who are going through it, and so it's out there, and they are people not living far. So I just hope that this message can get out there, and that you can protect your vision and don't ever take it for granted. So thank you so much for tuning in and letting me share my story. Bye guys.